Hey everyone, this is the Lorcana Cheese. Tomorrow we're going to get the Lorecast for Attack of the Vine. We're going to find out what's going on with Attack of the Vine. It's now Attack of the Vine Eve, at least as far as the Lorecast is concerned. And I decided it might be fun to do a video about my predictions of what I think will be in Attack of the Vine, and my predictions in what I think will be in Hyperia City, and in that Q1 2027 Onward set, because that information has helped me deduce what I think is going to be in Attack of the Vine in the first place. So, I mentioned in my previous video that I like to look at data and I like to look at trends. So, I'm going to open a Google sheet for you to take a look at some of the data and trends that are supporting my assertions that certain things, well, should be in Attack of the Vine. And maybe I'll be completely wrong with these predictions. I don't work at Ravensburger. I have no insider knowledge of anything like that. But I think that data and trends do determine what happens. So let's take a look. Okay, first, some overall predictions about Attack the Vine and about Hyperia City and the third set based on Onward. So, we know that dual links are coming up in Attack of the Vine. And by the way, I'm not going to be going into information about leaked cards, spoilers, things like that. I'm only going on information that can be seen from the box art itself and the fact that there's going to be dual links in this set. That's it. Alright, overall predictions. Previously, 2 sets in a row featured dual links. It is most likely that 2 sets in a row again will feature dual links to allow for the most characters to have dual ink cards. That's really the only way for so many IPs to actually have dual links. And when you're thinking about the gameplay and things like that, it's necessary to allow for the most cards to have access to that at least in 2 sets in a row. So I think we're going to see the dual links in both Attack of the Vine and Hyperia City at least. Maybe in that Q1 2027 Onward based set. But who knows? At least those 2 I think are going to have it. Hyperia City. Let's talk about that for a moment. After Ursula was defeated in Ursula's return in the Lorcana storyline, the characters celebrated in the set Shimmering Skies. I think we're coming up on a big celebration after they defeat the Vine, so I think there's going to be a celebratory themed set in Hyperia City. And then the untitled set that features Onward, Q1 2027, just based on what's going on with the movie Onward, I think we're going to see themes of magic, sorcery, and fantasy, and I think we're going to see a lot of themes of sibling relationships, because that's a movie that features 2 brothers, and that's going to come up in some of the predictions that you're going to see in a moment here. Now, what I have done is I've taken inventory of all of the IPs that have previously appeared in Disney Lorcana. Let's take a look. So, looking at the specific predictions by IP for what will appear in which set. So, 101 Dalmatians mostly last appeared in Wilds Unknown, previously appeared in sets 1 to 3, 7 to 9. The appearance in set 12 Wilds Unknown was really just Cruella de Vil. They don't really seem to be too involved with the whole Vine storyline. I don't see 101 Dalmatians appearing in Attack of the Vine. However, I do see them definitely appearing in Hyperia City. The original story set in London, in a city setting. The Dalmatians make sense in the city setting. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a dual ink card with Pongo and Perdita, and Jasper and Horace is another one, right? The 2 villains, the henchmen of Cruella de Vil. The other pattern is that once Dalmatians appear, they're usually in the larger story for at least 2 sets in a row. That's been the case for 1 to 3 and 7 to 9. So if they appear in Hyperia City, I think we see them in the Onward set. Alright, going into Aladdin. Aladdin has shown up in every single set except for Wilds Unknown. But there's so many IPs now in the game, I think it makes sense for them, again, not to show up in Attack of the Vine, and instead show up in Hyperia City. I definitely think there's going to be some dual link energy with Aladdin, and if it's in at least Attack of the Vine and Hyperia City, most likely they're going to be in the secondary of the 2 sets in Hyperia City. And then again in the Onward set. Again, every single set except for Wilds Unknown. It just makes sense that they would show up in Onward. Alice in Wonderland has shown up in sets 1 to 3 and 5 to 12. The 5 to 12 appearance is, the set 12 appearance is really the Queen of Hearts, just like Cruella de Vil is for 101 Dalmatians. There are only 2 Enchanteds, by the way, for this entire IP. This is long overdue for another Enchanted. There's no Enchanted for the Queen of Hearts herself. I don't think that's going to happen in Attack of the Vine. I actually don't think we're going to see Alice in Wonderland in Attack of the Vine. And I don't think the city setting makes sense for them either, for those characters. However, if they're absent for at least 2 sets in a row, I think we definitely see them in the Onward set in Q1 2027, and I wouldn't be surprised if we get a Queen of Hearts Enchanted. We also don't have full art Enchanted of Alice. Her only Enchanted was from one of the earlier sets before Shimmering Skies, so some predictions there. Atlantis, The Lost Empire. This is a great movie. I just wish it was a musical. I think that actually detracted from its overall popularity in the big picture. Atlantis, The Lost Empire appeared in set 3 Into the Inklings, 7 and 8, and 12. There was a big presence in set 12 in Wilds Unknown. Because of that, I don't think there will be a presence in Attack of the Vine, and I don't think the city setting makes sense for them either. They're a maybe, I think, for Q1 2027. Again, this is not the most popular franchise in Disney IPs, and I was happy to see their presence in Wilds Unknown. I think they made perfect sense there. But because they were there, I just don't think we're going to see them again for a little bit. The Aristocats only appeared in set 7 and 8. They have absolutely no Enchanteds. That makes no sense to me. I think this is also another overdue for Enchanteds kind of set. I don't think they make any sense in Attack of the Vine. I think they make perfect sense in a city setting, which is what they're based on, which is what they're based on in their storyline anyway. I believe their original story is set in Paris. Team-up cards, the Kittens, Duchess and Thomas O'Malley. I think if we're going to have more dogs, we got to have some cats. So, Aristocats, hopefully we see them in Hyperia City. And because the only pattern we can identify is that they were in back-to-back sets in 7 and 8, it would make sense that they're in back-to-back sets 14 and 15. So I think if we do see them in Hyperia City, we see them again in that Onward set, Q1 2027, following that pattern. Bambi. Scrolling down a little bit here. Bambi's only appeared in 2 sets. Set 8 and set 11. And set 11, Winter Spell, basically doesn't even count, because it's only one card, and that's Bambi himself. It's that boost card that Bambi has, with the card with the boost mechanic. It's an amber. That's it. Otherwise, he and other characters of his franchise appear in only Reina Jafar. With how beloved this film is, especially with how beloved this film was to Walt Disney himself, I think there is a very real possibility that he does show up in Attack of the Vine. It's that forest setting. It's an outdoor setting. We haven't seen a subtitled card as Great Prince of the Forest. I would not be surprised if we see that in Attack of the Vine. I don't know what he'd be doing in the city, so I don't think it's going to be in Hyperia City, and depending on everything else, he may or may not appear in the Onward set. But there's a lot to be done with Bambi in this game, so things to think about. Beauty and the Beast were in sets 1 through 5, skipped set 6, As You're at Sea, and then we're in 7 to 11. So they have been in every set except for 2, and the second being Wilds Unknown. Beauty and the Beast characters were not in Wilds Unknown. Because they have never missed 2 sets in a row, I think it's absolutely apparent that they're going to be in Attack of the Vine. They're missing in Action and Wilds Unknown, and they were in every other set prior to that since 7. Yeah, they're going to be in Attack of the Vine. I also think that they're going to be in Hyperia City. They tend to have like 4 or 5 sets in a row, right? So that's the pattern, 4 sets in a row at least in this game. So if they skipped set 12, it stands to reason that they're going to be in 13, 14, and probably 15. Just based on patterns. Big Hero 6 has only appeared in set 6 through 8. But it's had 3 Enchanteds. This is a popular franchise. I don't know what they'd be doing in Attack of the Vine, the characters from this movie. So I do think that they will appear in the city setting, and I think they're going to be overdue by the time they appear in the city setting. I think we're going to see them in Hyperia City. If they show up in Hyperia City, I think we see them in the Onward set, Q1 2027. The Black Cauldron, very unexpected to have this set in the game. This was not a popular movie when it came out in the late 1980s. It served its purpose in the larger story of the history of Disney animated features, but not a popular franchise at all. It's reflected in the game. They've only been seen in sets 10 and 11, and that's probably sufficient. That's probably enough. The fact that there's already 2 enchanteds for the Black Cauldron, when there are no enchanteds for the Aristocats and things like that, and only 1 enchanted for Bambi, seems a bit off balance, basically. So I don't think we see them in Attack of the Vine. I don't think we see them in the city setting. Maybe in Onward. If there's themes of magic and fantasy and sorcery, I think that makes sense to then include the characters from the Black Cauldron in that set. And it will have been then a little bit of a break, at least 3 sets without them. You'd have a few cards there, but I just don't think we're going to see them in the next 2 sets. As for Bolt only appeared in set 7 and 8. There is 1 enchanted for Bolt. I don't see, we're not going to see him in Attack the Vine. I'd be totally shocked if we see Bolt characters in Attack the Vine. I do think we see Bolt in Hyperia City. There's pigeons, literally, that are cards in previous sets that are in relation to the Bolt franchise. What city's complete without pigeons? So yeah, I think we definitely see Bolt in Hyperia City, and a maybe for the set that follows, because again, there's that pattern of subsequent sets. Bolt previously appeared set 7 to 8, so it makes sense that they'd show up in 2 subsequent sets, so 14 and 15. So, just based on patterns, things to look at. Brave first appeared, of course, Pixar first came in set 12, Wilds Unknown. I totally think that we're going to see Brave in set 13, in Attack of the Vine. However, I don't think Merida has any interest in being in a city setting, and I don't think we see her in Hyperia City, and I think maybe we see her again in Onward, just based on theme, imagery, stuff like that. Brother Bear. I love this movie so much, and Brother Bear 2. The first movie and the sequel are both great films. With regards to Brother Bear, we only saw them in 3 sets so far. Set 5, Shimmering Skies, and then 7 and 8. Last time, of course, these characters were seen, it was set 8. No enchanteds at all. Again, things like Black Cauldron getting enchanteds, and Brother Bear having nothing. Just doesn't make sense to me. I don't think we're going to see them in Attack of the Vine, though. I don't think we're going to see them in the city setting, but I do think we're going to see them in the Onward set. And the reason why is because Onward features a story between 2 brothers. And Brother Bear is really a story about brothers. I think that just matches so perfectly. And so I think it makes sense to see Brother Bear, hopefully with an enchanted, in that Q1 2027 set. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Last seen in Wilds Unknown. They were previously in set 6 and 8. So they've only been in 3 sets. But big presence in Wilds Unknown. Because of that, I don't think we're going to see them in Attack of the Vine. And I don't think we're going to see them in the city. Major assumption, I think they are going to be in the Onward set. Sort of that kind of brotherly kind of theme. Fellowship between the characters. Adventuring, stuff like that with Onward. I could see this in set 15, but I think we're going to be waiting until set 15 to see Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers again. Cinderella, big franchise here. Sets 1 to 2 skipped set 3, appeared in 4 and 5, skipped Azurite Sea, was in 7, was not in Rated Jafar, and then was in sets 9 through 12. And the most notable thing here was Prince Charming and Cinderella both had cards in set 12. Because they just appeared. I don't think we see them again. I do think we probably see them in Hyperia City. It's just too popular a franchise not to show up. And there really has only been, it's that idea of like at least 2 sets going by without characters. We haven't seen that for Cinderella. There's only been like 1 skip in between certain steps. We're not in 3. We're not in 6. We're not in 8. It'll be a new pattern established for Cinderella, if not in Hyperia City. And because of that, expect to see Cinderella back in Hyperia City. And then Onward, I think, is a toss-up regarding, whatever's going to appear there. Maybe in the Onward set. Darkwing Duck came out for the first time in Winterspell, and then a little bit of presence in Wilds Unknown. They already appeared in 2 sets recently. This is a very fun franchise, but I don't think it's the biggest franchise out there. There's a lot of priority and focus elsewhere, so I don't think we see Darkwing Duck in Attack of the Vine. I do think we see it in Hyperia City because of the city setting. I think it'd be fun to have Darkwing running around, and then it all depends on the theme of the set. for the Onward set in Q1 2027. So I think that's a maybe. And by the way, I have color-coded this spreadsheet. The ones in yellow and the light yellow there are my no's, the ones in green are my yeses, and the ones in orange are my maybes. DuckTales. Kind of spread out between the different sets. There's a lot of crossover here with the other franchises. Appeared in sets 3, 5, 7 to 10, and 12. Big character, of course, Scrooge McDuck. And then, of course, his nephews. They might appear in Attack of the Vine, but they did just appear in Wilds Unknown. So it's just not clear. And then again, it's a maybe. It's kind of maybes all across the board, because I think that this is probably the most unpredictable franchise. Actually, it really probably is the most unpredictable franchise with regards to Lorcana and what sets they're going to appear in. Dumbo has only appeared in set 9 Fabled. I don't think there's any indication that he's going to appear in Attack of the Vine or in Hyperia City. He needs to make a reappearance at some point, though, and I think probably Onward or a later set, maybe set 16, 17, we're going to see Dumbo again. Encanto. Alright, so this is an interesting subject, because Encanto showed up in the story sets 4 through 5, and then 7 to 9, and then 12. Huge presence in Wilds Unknown, because there's so many enchanteds in Wilds Unknown. That being said, when they have shown up before, they have always shown up in subsequent sets, 4 through 5, 7 through 9. So, in following with that pattern, it makes sense that we're going to see Encanto, most likely in Attack of the Vine. But I think if they show up in Attack of the Vine, dictates if they're going to show up in Hyperia City. I, however, do not believe they're going to get any more enchanteds. That's so many enchanteds when you look at the big picture, and that's why I marked this on this chart. At this point in time, Encanto has 8 enchanteds as a franchise. If we go back through the sets I've already mentioned, the only other set to compete with this is Aladdin with 10. Every other set, I mean, we're talking Beauty and the Beast had 7, and Cinderella has 6. Encanto has 8. It's one of the highest, and that's all due to what happened in Wilds Unknown with the enchanteds there. So again, I think they're a big part of the story. I don't think we're getting any more Encanto enchanteds in Attack of the Vine, but I think they're definitely going to show up in Attack of the Vine, and if they somehow don't, they're definitely going to show up in Hyperia City. And also sibling relationships for the Onward set. Again, if we go back to that brothers theme for the characters from Onward, sibling relationships is the name of the game with regards to Encanto, and I think we see Encanto showing up in Q1 2027. Clearly, the people at Lorcana really like all the characters in this franchise, so something to make note of. Emperor's New Groove has actually been missing from the scene since Fable. Sets 1 through 3, 5 to 9, that's where they showed up. They've been absent for all of the Vine storyline. 70% of the game they're a part of. They haven't been part of the Vine storyline at all. I think it's time for them to return. I think we do see Emperor's New Groove in Attack of the Vine. And then I think that we see Kuzco joining in the festivities in Hyperia City. This is also based on the pattern of once they're in a set, they're usually in sets that immediately follow. So if they're in Attack of the Vine, I think we see them in Hyperia City. I think we also see them in set 15 in Onward, having to do with that magic and sorcery kind of idea and things like that. All right, Fantasia. Now this is when we start talking about some fascinating subjects and some history of Disney that I think is going to dictate where we see certain things show up. Fantasia was previously in sets 1 to 4, set 7, and set 11 Winterspell. For set 7 and set 11, this is the presence of Chernabog. There's a Chernabog card in each of those sets. Outside of Chernabog, the presence has been sets 1 through 4. They have had 3 enchanteds. I do not see any way that Fantasia is involved with Attack of the Vine. However, I absolutely think we see Fantasia in Hyperia City, and I think this is going to be a historical homage. I think that's exactly why we're going to see it in Hyperia City. If you look back to the history of the Hyperion Studio, which is where the set takes its name, so Hyperia City is coming from the historic The Hyperion Studio, which lasted from 1926 to 1940, where Disney was producing feature films. The 3 feature films that the Hyperion Studio produced in that time frame was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, and Fantasia. That's why it would be a crime to not include Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio and Fantasia in Hyperia City. They basically have to be there. So I think we're definitely going to see Fantasia characters and potentially Fantasia 2000 characters in Hyperia City. I was thinking about things that are based in the city in those musical moments of Fantasia, the scenes. And what comes to mind is the Gershwin Rhapsody in Blue from Fantasia 2000. I think if we get some of that artwork from Fantasia 2000, Rhapsody in Blue, it would be so beautiful. And they've been known to do this for big moments. If you were wondering if Fantasia 2000 is in the game, it is, because we have a Firebird card, and that's the finale of Fantasia 2000 is Stravinsky's Firebird Suite. So let's be real, okay? The big city song in both Fantasia movies, if taken together, is Rhapsody in Blue, and what a thing that would be to have this awesome jazz setting with Fantasia in there. So I think we have to see this in Hyperia City. Ravensburger, if you're listening to this and somehow you forgot to include these 3 films, shame. It's like, Game of Thrones with the bell, right? Shame. So I think absolutely these are a given, these 3 franchises. And as I get to them, we're going to talk about that again. Maybe for the Onward set, just again, the magic fantasy thing, things like Yensid, Sorcerer's Apprentice, stuff like that. Fox and the Hound, sets 11 to 12, first made their appearance in Winterspell. They like to be in the wild. I think they could be an Attack of the Vine. That'd be fun. I think Copper needs an Enchanted. What gives? Why does only Todd have the Enchanted? Now, Todd was my chase Enchanted, because I think it's the most beautiful artwork in all of Winterspell, is the Todd card. Copper doesn't get one? Yeah, so, let's give Copper an Enchanted. That'd be really, really great. I hope I hear about that as the reveals come out for Attack of the Vine, because they really need to be in Attack of the Vine. I don't think they make sense in the city. So I don't think we see them in Hyperia City, and I don't think we see them in the Onward set. Frozen. Now here's the big one. Everybody's probably, if you're fast forwarding in this video, you're probably like, what's her prediction on Elsa and Anna and Olaf and all these characters? Okay, let's recap Frozen here for a moment. Frozen has appeared in sets 1 and 2, was not in set 3, was in 4 and 5, was not in set 6. And then appeared consistently set 7 through 11 and did not make an appearance in Wilds Unknown. Just like some of the other sets, there has not been a time in the game in which point they have missed 2 sets in a row. So I think this means Frozen definitely shows up in Attack of the Vine. Also, Elsa still has some unfinished business with regards to this vine, because she tried to freeze the vine for the card Freeze the Vine, which was an Enchanted in Winterspell, setting off Winterspell, which is also a card in the game. It's too big an IP to skip 2 in a row, so I think we definitely see Attack of the Vine. I think possible we don't see in Hyperia City. I don't think we really need Frozen in more than 2 sets out of the 4 sets released in a year. The Frozen fans might disagree with me on that, but you can just, what's it that Elsa sings? Oh yeah, let it go, let it go. She doesn't need to be in there, okay? She doesn't need to be there, and I just proved I can sing. I hope that comes out nice in the recording. I don't know, I'll cut it if it doesn't. Anyway, probably shows up in the Onward set, Q1 2027. It's the winter set. Elsa will make an appearance. And also 2027 going to be a big year for her, because I think it's at the end of 2027 we have the release of Frozen 3, which means probably promo card for Frozen. Great. I wonder how many scalpers are going to be in the market by then. All right, Gargoyles. This is the set that brought me back into the game. I've reconnected with my sister and repaired things after not really a 20-year estrangement, but a 20-year of kind of getting along with my twin sister. Worst twins ever. Except today, in January, really started playing the game, hanging out with my sister, who was going to get married in June and did get married in June. It was a Tangled-themed wedding. I went to go get some cards. I saw Gargoyles were on the box. This was my favorite show as a kid. Favorite. Gargoyles is amazing. I really hope we see more of them. It's going to play into another set. I hope we get to see another IP that I hope we get to see in a future set very soon. But only appearing in Whispers in the Well and Winterspell, and I was so grateful that there were those 2 cards. The Angela card in Winterspell and the Elisa Maza as the gargoyle in Winterspell. That was my favorite episode, the mirror in Gargoyles. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to go on your Disney Plus account that if you're watching this video at this point, you probably have, and I'm going to be surprised if you don't. Go watch that episode, the mirror. That is where you see Elisa Maza as the gargoyle. Spoiler alert, but hey, the show's been out for like 20 years. Like, catch up. Time to catch up on that. Gargoyles is awesome. I hope we see more gargoyles. However, I don't think we see them in Attack of the Vine. I do think we see them in Hyperia City, because who better to look out over a city, as is the case in the show, than the gargoyles. So I really hope we see them there, and maybe we see them in the Onward set. Great Mouse Detective, last seen in Whispers in the Well, was not seen in Winterspell, was not seen in Wilds Unknown. However, big presence in the game was in Set 2, Rise of the Floodborn, and Sets 5 through 10. I don't think we're going to see them fighting in the wild and fighting against the Vine. I just don't. I do think because of the city environment that we do see them, and in Hyperia City, and because Ravensburger just seems to really like this franchise. It's not the most popular IP. It certainly is not. It's part of that 80s history of Disney animated films, which a lot of people really need to... If you don't know what happened in like the 80s and then the Disney Renaissance in the 90s with Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, there's so many documentaries about this. You need to go in and you need to listen to that history. And also there's a lot of stuff that's going to really make you cry once you find out what was really happening behind the scenes with certain people that were so fundamental to the Disney Renaissance of the 90s. But this is coming out of sort of a slump in the 80s with Black Cauldron, Great Mouse Detective, and some other films. Disney animation, it was not in a good state then. These were good films, but certainly Disney animation had some problems then. So I'm surprised that we get so much of Great Mouse Detective that we do. But it's a great story. These are great characters. So, and again, city environment, I think we see them in Hyperia City, and maybe we see them in the Onward set. Hercules. Now, this is going to be something that I'm going to rant about in some future videos, because some people have been hating on Hades, and I don't know why. They're all like, Hades should not be an iconic. He's like the worst of the iconics. Losers, losers. Hades, of course, is the best of the iconics, okay? And I'm not just saying that because it's the only iconic I have. I'm saying that because Hades, I think, is the big villain of the entire game. And this is supported by the fact that Hades is the first villain of the game. He's like the 5th card in first chapter. It's also supported by the fact that Hercules is one of the only franchises to appear in every single set. Okay, not even Frozen has that. So Frozen fans, again, sorry, not the case. Beauty and the Beast, no. All these other ones, no. Hercules appears in every single set of Disney Lorcana. At least one card in every single set has been in relation to Hercules. And there's a ton of Hades cards. And he is the first villain iconic. And he's the first villain of the game. So get over it. What is that phrase from the interview? This quote I love? Haters gonna hate, and ain'ters gonna ain't, okay? Hades is where it's at. Hades was not in Wilds Unknown. We had a Hercules card, we had a Pegasus card, we had Zeus. We did not have Megra, we did not have Phil or Philoctetes, whatever you want to go with, Phil. We did not have Hades. Expect Hades in Attack the Vine. I think he's pulling the strings behind the scene. He is making other people do his bidding. And I think he also sets up the whole arc of Attack of the Vine with Whispers in the Well. I watched a whole video about Whispers in the Well and the themes, and they never really mentioned Hades. They were talking about the underworld. They were talking about the Horned King from Black Cauldron and the Black Cauldron and the Headless Horseman and all this. And they're like, whoa, and they're whispers and there's like ghosts and it's that theme. But they never mentioned Hades. Again, I just don't get it. Like, what are you missing here? He's the god of the underworld. Of course he ran the show in Whispers in the Well. This is the thing that is below. Okay, the vine, right? What was it? The Visions card, right? Where we can see the vine in the card and Whispers in the Well. Okay? Hades runs that which is below. You want to know where the vine is coming from? Hades is behind it, but I think he's getting other people to do his bidding because that's what he does. I think he got Ursula to do what she did in set 4. Okay, I'm getting into like too big of a rant here and I'm getting very upset. But like, seriously, pay attention to the Hercules cards. every single set. And because they've been in every single set, I think they're going to be in every single set. So if they're, set 13, 14, 15, awesome. We're going to see these cards. We're probably going to see also like a dual ink card for Pain and Panic, because why would we not? Like, why would we not? Hades Henchman, certainly. Maybe we'll see the Titans again. We've only seen the Titans early in the game. That would be lots of fun. Look, he just wants to run Olympus, okay? All right? Hades, super important to this game. If you don't have the Hades iconic right now, and you're one of those people that are out collecting all the iconics, and you're like, well, I can wait on Hades. Just remember, when all the Disney fans come in, there are people that collect villains exclusively. Ravensburger's other game that's super popular is Villainous. Okay? The villains have huge followings. He is the first villain iconic and the first villain of the entire game. What are you waiting for the prices to go up higher? Have fun with that. All right. Moving on to The Incredibles. I really love The Incredibles. I'm so glad they came out with the first wave of Pixar. I've actually conducted jazz band music for The Incredibles, that phenomenal score by Michael Giacchino. I decided to collect all of the Enchanteds for The Incredibles, so I do have all of them. I pulled Frozone, and I pulled Jack Jack. I'm one of those people that did have a quadruple Enchanted pre-release kit. Okay, so it does exist, and I have like 16 witnesses for this, if you don't believe me. Believe what you will. But I pulled Frozone from a booster box from the first case of Wilds Unknown that I opened, and I pulled Jack Jack from a pre-release kit. Okay. And then I was thinking, because that was the same kit that I had 3 other Enchanteds that I pulled from it. I'd pulled Isabella Madrigal, and I'd pulled Akita, and I'd pulled Family Scattered. Those were the 4 plus Jack Jack. So those were the 4. That night, I was so excited that I decided to go to other pre-release events, and I actually wound up, because one of the pre-release weekend, that Sunday, was Mother's Day, so it actually caused lower attendance at some stores because of Mother's Day. I wound up at a store near Philadelphia, where they had max of 8 players, and only 2 of us were there. And we both played pre-releases. So what was really interesting at that store, I'll tell this story real quick here, is that we played against each other. We played the pre-release. We played 3 matches against each other. We each built our deck out of the kits that we opened, and we realized that the store had 6 more kits, and we both bought 3 of them. And I was thinking, I bet there's an Enchanted somewhere in the store. I think at least one of those 8 pre-release kits at that store, there was an Enchanted. So I figured I had a 50-50 shot, knowing that they were juiced from like the night before. I was one of the people that pulled 4. I was like, I think I have a pretty good shot here of pulling another Enchanted. When I got home, I opened the other 3 pre-release kits, and there was a second Jack Jack, which is really exciting, because my sister's fiance, now husband, really wanted Jack Jack, and he had an extra Maui from the first chapter, so we just traded that. Everybody was happy. She was a little upset that I pulled 4 Enchanteds across the table from her at the Saturday night pre-release of Wilds Unknown. But then I was at a Monday night pre-release of Wilds Unknown following that, didn't pull anything, but I knew they had extra pre-release kits for sale. I told my sister and her fiance, again, now husband, that they had these extra pre-release kits, and he went down the next day, picked up 3 of them. She got home, opened up Akita, and opened up the Merida Iconic. So all is good. I promised her ice cream. We also had like ice cream Sunday celebration for all of like the Enchanteds, and her pulling the Iconic and all that kind of stuff. So it was a good time. I'm not going to say that I'm going to get a quadruple Enchanted pre-release kit in Attack of the Vine. That would be nice. But it was really cool to have that experience, obviously. I feel bad for the people that like opened cases and didn't get anything. It just, stuff happens, But yeah, anyway, so that's my little story here, side story. Incredibles, they just showed up in set 12. I think we see them in set 13. I also think we see them in Hyperia City because they have that city setting. And then maybe for the Onward set, Jungle Book. Sets 2 through 3 and 7 to 10. Wasn't in set 1, wasn't in Shivering Skies, wasn't in Azurite Sea. Didn't see them in Winterspell, didn't see them in Wilds Unknown. I think that we, I have this in the wrong color. I just noticed that. Okay, let me fix that. Yeah. I do think that we see them in Attack the Vine. Outdoor setting. It just kind of makes sense. And they've also been missing in action in Winterspell and Wilds Unknown. And this is such a classic franchise that I think they need to reappear in the game. I don't see them in the city setting of Hyperia City, and I don't see them in the Onward set. But I think it is important to see them in Attack the Vine. Now, that will break the pattern of appearing in subsequent sets if they are in Attack of the Vine and are not in Hyperia City. It does break that pattern. So that's the only reason there's maybe a hint that they could appear in Hyperia City. But again, I think unlikely. Lady and the Tramp. Okay. They've only been in sets 7 to 8. And maybe they wouldn't have been so noticeable as being in the game if it wasn't for what was going on with the totally broken Dogs deck that's about to be rotated out from Core Constructed. They have no bearing on the Vine storyline, so I don't think we see them there. I think they make a reappearance in Hyperia City. I mean, we need that card. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, right? This was brought up to me in set championships a couple weeks ago for Wilds Unknown, okay? Some people were playing Dogs decks, they were playing with the enchanted cards, and you could see the Tramp enchanted and the Lady enchanted. And how this was not connecting art between these two enchanteds, which I'm assuming was a topic of conversation when this originally came out. How this was not connecting art over the plate of spaghetti, I don't know how. But we have another chance at this now. Dual ink card, 2 characters on 1 card. Let's get the enchanted in Hyperia City. Of the 2 of them, Lady and the Tramp, same card with the spaghetti. Ravensburger. Come on. Give us that card. Also, I think the spaghetti is like an item card in the earlier sets. So, what are we waiting for? We have the spaghetti dinner. We have the characters. We just need them all in the same picture. That would be really, really great. Also, we need Tramp 2.0. People are thinking dogs are just gonna go away, when it rotates out, ban Tramp and all that kind of stuff. Get ready. I think Tramp's gonna be back. And then if they appear in Hyperia City, again, subsequent sets, I think we see them in the Onward set. Lion King has been in every single set except Wilds Unknown, set 12. Because of that, we're gonna see him in Attack the Vine. I'd be really, really surprised if we don't see them in Attack of the Vine. However, I don't think we see them in the city setting. What are the lions going to do in the city? I could see Timon and Pumbaa, Timon, trying to figure out things to do in a city setting. He seems like a troublemaker, that guy. But, seriously? Attack the Vine, foregone conclusion that we're going to see him. You can't miss 2 sets in a row. And then I think again in Onward, that makes more sense than the city setting. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Lilo and Stitch was only missed in sets 10, Whispers in the Well, and Wilds Unknown. Again, has never missed 2 sets in a row. I think we definitely see Lilo and Stitch in Attack the Vine. It's too popular of an IP. I think we see them in the city, and I think we see them in Onward. Little Mermaid, appearing in sets 1 through 4. Then it skipped sets 5 through 8. That's a big gap of time. 4 sets in a row, there was no Little Mermaid. All in that second season. The sets they're about to rotate out. But again, 1 to 4, and then 9 and 10, not in Winterspell, and then set 12. And set 12 is very, very specific because we saw Ariel, we saw Eric, and we saw Ursula. That being said, subsequent sets, they've always appeared, and Ursula seems to be on the box art for Attack of the Vine. So I think definitely an Attack of the Vine. But then we know there can be a big gap between sets for Little Mermaid. So I think there's precedent for this. I think that they actually don't appear in Hyperia City or Onward. Mickey and Friends are in all the different sets. I don't think I need to get into that too much. They're just such iconic characters that, they're just going to show up. Moana, no way that she doesn't appear in Attack of the Vine. Okay, she was not in Wilds Unknown. Moana previously appeared sets 1 through 9, missed Whispers in the Well, was in Winterspell, was an iconic in Winterspell, and then was not in Wilds Unknown. The Moana movie is coming out in a month. The live action movie, there's no way that movie is coming out, and they haven't coordinated this. That's like saying, oh, we totally, we just lucked out that Toy Story 5 was coming out in June, and, Wilds Unknown came out the month before. Wow, look at the coincidence there. That's amazing. That's the Ravensburger offices are not doing that. They're going to be like, so what's the lineup? Yeah, guess what's going to be in the fall set for Disney Lorcana already being planned right now, I'm sure, because they probably plan these things 4 years out for fall 2027. Frozen's going to be there because Frozen 3 is coming out. So anytime there's a big movie release, Moana is going to be in Attack the Vine. Also, let's think about this. Go back to that knowledge of the Black Cauldron having enchanted. Moana has an iconic, but Moana actually has no enchanted. So there's no enchanted card that just features Moana. It's really interesting. So, if the iconic for Moana is out of reach for people because it's just so expensive, but they want to have a full art card of Moana, none exists. And with the live action movie coming out this summer, I think one of the enchanted reveals we're going to get for the Attack of the Vine is going to be a Moana card. It needs to happen. If it doesn't happen, Ravensburger, what are you doing? That just seems to be the right timing. And then with the live action coming out, because Moana tends to appear in most of the sets, she's in all but 2. I think we do see Moana in Hyperia City, and then Onward set kind of depends on how much we've seen Moana. But I think this is a given for Attack the Vine. Or it's just a massive fail otherwise. Monsters, Inc. we know is going to be an Attack of the Vine. I think it shows up in Hyperia City because it's an Attack of the Vine. And then we'll see about the Onward set. Alright, Mulan. Super popular in the game. Was in sets 1 through 4, not in 5 and 6. Was in sets 7 through 11. And then was not in Wilds Unknown. Due to her presence being absent in Wilds Unknown, I think she definitely shows up in Attack of the Vine. Again, this is just a major IP. I'm not sure Mulan would be interested in city life, and as a result, I'm not sure that she would show up in Hyperia City. And I'm not sure that she would show up in Onward. There was that gap of sets 5 and 6, where she didn't show up 2 sets in a row. So that could be the case with Mulan, but I think we definitely see her in Attack the Vine. She's had some presence in the Attack the Vine bigger story arc. Peter Pan. Peter Pan is the only, I think it's the only other. Let me look at my numbers here. Yeah, it's a long list, right, everybody? Look, I put some effort into this video for everybody here, so they could look at the data and learn to understand data better. Okay, Peter Pan is the only other franchise other than Hercules that has been in every single set. I'm not really going to count Mickey and Friends, because he's just going to keep showing up all over the place. It's Mickey Mouse. But, Peter Pan, Hercules, the only ones. And Peter Pan and Hook's presence is not as big as, Hades, okay? So, that just is what it is. I think that they appear in every set because Tinkerbell is such a big character. So, if Peter Pan wouldn't otherwise appear, Tinkerbell does. Because, again, we're talking iconic characters. This is why Pinocchio, Jiminy Cricket, not appearing more frequently is kind of surprising to me. But Tinkerbell and Jiminy Cricket are kind of in that same sort of realm as, the host of Disney. The introduction. It's that perfect little extra a piece there. We're going to talk about Pinocchio here in a moment. But with Peter Pan, they've been in every set. There's no reason they're not going to be in every single set. So, expect them across the board. Pinocchio. Only in sets 2, 5, and 8. Last seen in Reign of Jafar. No enchantments for Pinocchio. Again, what are we doing? Come on, let's go back through this list again, okay? Up to where we are at this point. Alright, there's been an enchanted for, things that I would consider not as big of an IP as Pinocchio. Alright, Atlantis has had 5. I like them, but they've had 5. Does not compete against Pinocchio. Black Cauldron, again, stands out. Bolt. It's nice for Bolt to have an enchanted. Pinocchio, what are we doing? Jiminy Cricket, what are we doing? Okay. Darkwing Duck with 3. I like all 3 of them. It's not Pinocchio. DuckTales with 2. Not Pinocchio. Encanto again with 8. That's just a lot. Again, I just can't get over. That's a lot compared to the other franchises. I've been looking into a study with this, by the way, looking at maybe there's an association between box office results and the amount of revenue that certain IPs bring into that compares to the Enchanteds that are chosen, because the Enchanteds are going to drive collectors drive up the set, drive up demand, more profitable game for Ravensburger. There's got to be like a whole financial side of this thing. Emperor's New Groove with 4. Again, not Pinocchio. Fox and the Hound at least has its one. 10 for Frozen we got. Okay. Also, there's princess tax. Let's talk about the concept of princess tax real quick. My sister uses this term. I don't know if other people use this term. When princesses are involved, it just costs more. Okay. There's that princess box coming out. If you want to get your hands on it and you're not at the parks and things like that, that's going to be princess tax. Again, Great Mouse Detective 3 Enchanteds. It's not Pinocchio. I just, like, what are we doing? What are we doing with this? How does Pinocchio not have an Enchanted yet? What is going on here? Pinocchio has no connection to the Attack the Vine storyline. I think again, this is just like Fantasia. We have to see it in Hyperia City. And that should be where Pinocchio gets his Enchanted. Again, 3 films in the Hyperion studio that was open from 1926 to 1940, where Disney was doing work. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, and Fantasia. Those 3 must be in Hyperia City set. Pinocchio has no Enchanted. Guess what is probably Enchanted in that set? Okay? I would not be surprised. Snow White, Pinocchio, and Mickey is the Sorcerer's Apprentice. And I think everybody wants those cards anyway. I think everybody was shocked that we didn't get the Snow White Enchanted in Wilds Unknown with the legendary that was in Wilds Unknown. I think you can also expect, we haven't really talked about legendaries. I'm not going to get into it here. I think we get legendaries for these franchises as well in Hyperia City. There just needs to be a focal point there in that set because of its name. And then Unknown. If Pinocchio appears in Onward, it's definitely skipped sets, and missed sets. There hasn't been that subsequent set pattern from the other ones. All right, Pocahontas. Pocahontas is an interesting subject because Pocahontas came out in Winter Spell with sets 11 and 12. Notice that we have not had the main villain in Pocahontas, Governor Ratcliffe, appearing in any set yet. That seems very, very unusual that we don't have the villain. So I think we definitely see the villain, Governor Ratcliffe, in Attack of the Vine. If somehow we miss Governor Ratcliffe again, I'm really wondering, why are we not getting this character in the Disney storyline of Lorcana? We have everybody else. Her friend, Chief Powhatan, Thomas. Where's Governor Ratcliffe? What is going on? And then I don't think we see her in Hyperia City. Now, Pocahontas 2, the sequel, did feature her going to London. Spoiler alert, if you never saw the sequel. I don't think still, even with that, I don't think we see her in Hyperia City. And there's so many franchises coming in. I think it's doubtful we see her in Onward. But I think we certainly see her in Attack of the Vine. And we need to see Governor Ratcliffe. Again, where's the villain? Where is the villain? By the way, the guy that voiced Governor Ratcliffe is the same voice as Cogsworth in Beauty and the Beast. So, pay attention to your Disney trivia. Alright, Princess and the Frog. I've got a lot of commentary about Princess and the Frog. I love this movie. This is one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. I love the 2D animation style that it has. I wish that they'd stuck with that and continued on with 2D animation. I hope they bring it back. The music of this, as a jazz musician, I love everything about this. I actually have family that lives in Louisiana. I have to visit them, and just everything about the setting, everything about the story, how they use the story, the classic fairy tale, and they adapted it to this. And it's such a wonderful tale. Here's where I have problems. First of all, I don't know, when you have a story that focuses on the princess and the frog, with the main character being the princess, who is Tiana, how did Prince Naveen get an Enchanted before she did? Again, what are we doing? I mean, it's a fun card. I get, the place in the story. He's playing some music in the celebration of Shimmering Skies. But how dare this game create a Prince Naveen Enchanted before a Tiana Enchanted? Now, this was fixed the next set, because in Azurite Sea, she gets the Enchanted, and she's not collected as much as the others. At least the price listings online for the market on the Tiana card are still super low. Again, Princess Tax. If you're not paying it now, you're going to be paying it later. That is her, I guess they call it in sports, the rookie card for Tiana. It's a gorgeous card. That artwork by Casey Robin is amazing. She's the same artist that did Cinderella Ballroom Sensation Enchanted. And she also did Tiana in the green dress from Rise of the Floodborn, which could have been her Enchanted, right? That artwork's gorgeous as well in the green dress. I'd also like to call out that we've never seen Tiana and Naveen as frogs, which they are for like half of the movie, in any card. Why do we not have cards with them as frogs at this point yet? The princess and the frog. We have yet to see a frog. And then Dr. Facilier has no Enchanted, and hasn't shown up for a while either, the great villain. Which, isn't that the same voice actor that plays Goliath? Pretty sure it is. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, what is going on here? Again, priorities. There needs to be some better priorities with regards to Princess and the Frog. I just don't understand this. Again, I don't see any connection, though, really to the whole Vine storyline. I love her in her winter outfit in Winterspell, but that's the last time that we saw her. We saw them in sets 1 through 6, 8 to 9, and 11. We're not in Wilds Unknown. I don't think we're going to see them in Attack of the Vine. I totally think she makes sense in the city. Her storyline is set in New Orleans, so I really hope we do. I hope we see like this whole restaurant vibe with regards to Hyperia City. I have other reasons that I want to see the restaurant vibe there. Get to that at the end. This video is going long, so I'm going to try to keep moving along here. But I've just got so much to say about so much of all of this, but like I had to get into my little rant there. So if you're watching this video at this point, you're getting some gems here, okay? You're just getting some pieces of knowledge that it bothers me, and it will now bother you, okay? About what is going on here. And then we see usually her in subsequent sets, but of course we didn't see that with the Winterspell. So maybe in the Onward set, but I think definitely we see Princess and the Frog reappearing in Hyperia City. Raya and the Last Dragon is a movie I have not seen. I need to watch that. That's on my list. Sets 2 to 9, really popular in the game, but hasn't appeared since Fabled. And because they haven't been a part of the story, those characters, in the whole Vine story arc, I don't think we see them in Attack of the Vine. And then it's just not clear, Hyperia City or the Onward set. So maybe they do appear in Attack the Vine, because it's been since Fable that they've appeared in other. Before that, it was every single set except the first set. So yeah, I don't know enough about this franchise to really make an accurate call or prediction on that. Probably my weakest moment here. The Rescuers, sets 2 to 3 and 7 to 8. Only in 4 sets. I don't think we see them in Attack of the Vine. Maybe, again, sort of like Raya and the Last Dragon. Or Raya and the Last Dragon, whatever the pronunciation is there. Rescuers is kind of in the same boat there. Robin Hood. Alright, Robin Hood was present in sets 1 through 3. Oh, I should just combine that. Why do I have that written that way? Let me fix this. Hold on, everybody. I'm gonna fix this. Okay. Robin Hood was present in sets 1 through 5, not in 6, in 7 to 10, not in 11, and in set 12, which means it's only missed 2 sets of the whole game. But they just appeared in Wilds Unknown, and I don't think they need to appear in Attack of the Vine. I also don't think Hyperia City, I don't think the city scene is like Robin Hood scenes. I don't think we see him there. Most likely of the next 3, I think we see him in Onward, with that like magic fantasy sort of setting, adventuring in the forest kind of thing. I think that's where we see Robin Hood. Sleeping Beauty. Alright, this should be a huge indicator, I believe 100% that we see them in Attack of the Vine. The characters. So Sleeping Beauty has been in set 1, 3 to 7, 10, and 12. We've got 5 enchantments for this set. Maleficent is literally a villain that fought with vines. So I think that's a major miss if she's not in Attack of the Vine, because she's probably like coaching these vines. I get that she was just in Wilds Unknown, but she's probably like saying, hey vines, let's team up, okay? The vine probably really likes Maleficent, because, like, Maleficent knows how to control vines, and, like, it's the name of the set. I think it's a miss if Maleficent is not featured in Attack the Vine. Also note that in Wilds Unknown, Sleeping Beauty characters did appear, but it was just the fairies. We didn't get Aurora or Prince Philip, and we should call attention to this. So I think we see them in Attack of the Vine. If they don't, we see them in Hyperia City because it's just simply been too long since we've seen Aurora and Prince Philip. And then maybe on Onward. So we'll have to see what happens with Attack of the Vine with regards to the Sleeping Beauty franchise. But it's overdue now for Aurora and Prince Philip to show up. In the set. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Wow, what a presence in Wilds Unknown. Also presence in the game, but this makes sense. You know, the original animated feature film, 1937, Snow White. Sets 1 through 5, 7, 9, and 12. Huge presence in Wilds Unknown. Because of such a big presence in Wilds Unknown, I do not think that we are going to see this franchise in Attack the Vine. And again, I think we absolutely see this franchise. It would be crime not to in Hyperia City. This is the first animated feature film that was produced by Disney at the Hyperion studio, with Pinocchio following and Fantasia. And I think this is where we get the Snow White Enchanted, if not iconic, for Hyperia City, in homage to that history for the Walt Disney Company with Hyperion Studio. And then just because and obviously needs to appear in Hyperion City, if that happens, I don't think we need more Snow White and Onward. So lots of stuff there, but you can really sink your teeth into that history of the Hyperion studio, and you can say, like, those three should be a guarantee for Enchanted's potential iconic here for Snow White. They like to make iconic princesses. What's that about that princess tax? So, Sword in the Stone was in sets 1 and 2, and 5 to 10 has been missing in sets 11 and 12. Doesn't seem connected to the Attack of the Vine storyline. I don't see this showing up in Hyperia City. Onward, I think this makes a lot of sense. If they're going with the magic, fantasy, sort of adventuring storyline, I think Sword in the Stone fits there really well. Tailspin was in set 3, and then 8 and 9 for some of these additional characters where there's some crossover with other franchises. I don't think we see them again until Onward. I just don't see the connection with either the city theme or with the Vine storyline. Tangled. Sets 1 through 5, skipped Azure at Sea. Set 6 was in 7 through 11, was not in set 12. Due to the absence in set 12, they have not skipped 2 sets in a row. They are going to be in Attack of the Vine. Just based on that pattern alone. And then when they do appear, they've been in at least 4 sets in a row. Just like one of the earlier ones that I was talking about, I think Beauty and the Beast, if I recall correctly. With that being the case, with the patterns involved, I think we're going to see them in Attack the Vine, Hyperia City, and the Onward set all throughout. It's a major, major franchise. Toy Story, of course, we're going to see them in Attack of the Vine. They just came out in Wilds Unknown. Not sure about the 2 sets that follow. There's just a lot of franchises, but with the popularity, I mean, they could just put like 1 or 2 cards in and be like, check, Toy Story. People go out and get those sets just because they want to make sure that they have more things for the toy decks, and that might be the really big thing, is actually them appearing. That's why I have them marked as maybes in the other sets, just so there's some new toy cards in every set for the toy decks that are going to be played in Core Constructed. We don't have an Andy card yet. We have a Sid card, so yeah, I think possibly that card comes out in Attack the Vine, just to kind of check that box. Treasure Planet, super popular. Set 1, set 3 to 9. Appeared in all those sets. Didn't appear in set 2. Didn't appear in sets 10 through 12. They have not appeared in 3 sets in a row. They are not involved with the Vine storyline, but they're super popular. They've been in a lot of sets, so I think we're probably going to see them in Attack of the Vine. I'm not sure the city setting is the right setting, so I don't think Hyperia City. Maybe an Onward. I really think there's going to be some future space set, and that's what they're going to be waiting on for a lot of the Treasure Planet cards at this point, with some other IPs. Turning Red is expected in Attack the Vine, the last I heard. And if it's appearing in Attack the Vine, I think it goes into Hyperia City just naturally. Same with Up. And then Winnie the Pooh, we know is in an Attack. We know that Winnie the Pooh is in Attack of the Vine. Because of its presence And because it has that cooperative game where you play against the game, my friends and I have still not really beat Ursula yet. So those are tough games, but they're really, really good. Because that co-op game is coming out, I think that no presence of Winnie the Pooh in Hyperia City. Then a maybe on Onward, just based on the themes. With regards to Wreck-It Ralph, Wreck-It Ralph appeared in set 2, sets 5 to 8, and set 11. Missed some other sets. Doesn't seem connected to the Vine storyline. Maybe in Hyperia City, maybe in Onward. And then Zootopia, of course. Sets 2, 5 through 6, and 8 through 11. Big presence in the game. Was as part of Whispers in the Well in the Vine storyline. I think it's a maybe. Going into Attack the Vine, I think absolutely shows up in Hyperia City in that sort of city-themed, well, the city location. So, it really depends. It really depends. For Onward, if Zootopia shows up over there. All depends if they were in Hyperia City, but I think that's almost like a forgotten conclusion. When you have characters that naturally operate in the city, they're going to show up in the city setting. Now for some fun, getting to the end of the video here. This is getting really, really long, but hey, I said, like, I've got a lot of data, and this is how you do trend analysis, and we're going to go through all the data. I wanted to talk about franchises that are not yet in the game, that I think are either announced or I think need to be in the game very, very soon, and I think I would not be surprised. I think the whole audience would not be surprised if we see them there. So some overall predictions on franchises and IPs not in the game. And some commentary on one that I think there's a reason that it is not in the game. All right, the first one here is Coco. This has been confirmed for Hyperia City, and then naturally would probably go into the Onward set. So, set 14, Hyperia City for Coco. Cars. People are really wondering about cars. Cars to operate well need roads, which is why I don't think we're going to see it in Attack the Vine. However, there's roads in cities, and I think it makes sense, total sense, to put cars with Coco in that Hyperia City set. Major IP would bring a lot of attention to the game. It's already got a lot of attention, but I think it definitely would make sense to have cars in Hyperia City. Ratatouille, I think, also makes a ton of sense to be in Hyperia City. With the restaurant theme, I'd love to see some crossover between Ratatouille and with Princess and the Frog, with like that whole restaurant vibe. If they're having that celebration, stuff like that, I think that'd be a lot of fun. And also, if we have a great mouse detective, the Ratatouille play against like Ratigan and all this kind of stuff. So I think that'd be really fun too. All right, next one on my list here. Hexed. Yeah, the trailer just came out for Hexed. This movie comes out in the fall. And I wonder if they're going to take the opportunity to use the game Lorcana as a marketing opportunity for the film and then give out a promo at the Hexed film for the Lorcana game, which would only make sense if it was already in the game. And I think the Hyperia City release date seems to be before the film, I think. I think I'm right there. I have to look that up, but I get the suspicion that this could be the first time that we have new characters in the game around the same time as a totally new IP. I think that's a huge opportunity. If not there, then in Onward, with like the fantasy and the sorcery that's in Onward and what we've seen in the trailer for Hexed. So not something, this may be the first time anyone's mentioning this on YouTube in a Lorcana video. But again, it's like Ravensburger and Disney think about these things. You know, Toy Story 5, oh look, the Pixar set came out. And like Moana's coming out, watch, there's going to be a Moana card, and we had Moana Iconic. I think it's highly unlikely that Hexed comes out and it's not in Hyperia City. And at least if it's not in Hyperia City, it's going to be in the Onward set as new characters. Onward, we already know, is in the Onward set 15. All right, this is the big one that I really want to talk to everyone about if you've made it to this point in the video. The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Maybe this is a hot take. I don't think it is. I think some people already agree with me. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is probably... Why am I saying probably? The Hunchback of Notre Dame is the best Disney animated movie of all time. Of all time. The fact that it does not get the attention that it deserves is a travesty. This movie needs to come out this year. It needs to come out in the Hyperia city set. This year, it's the 30th anniversary of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It came out in 1996. This is 2026. It would be perfect to have this appear for its 30th anniversary in the Lorcana set. If it doesn't, what are we doing? I think there's a reason that Disney kind of, I don't want to say avoids, but doesn't do as much with this franchise. This storyline, this story was, in hindsight, especially seeing a lot of reactions of people watching the film for the first time recently on YouTube and things like that, this is a very difficult film to watch. It's the most real of the Disney films. The only magical element in it are talking gargoyles. That's it. And we already have the gargoyle type in the game. And I'd kind of like to see, just on the Lorcana side, the two gargoyle types together. But outside of that, there's really no magic. There's no high fantasy. There's no fairy tale element to the Hunchback of Notre Dame. We have a hero here who is, he overcomes his upbringing and Frollo and succeeds in the end. Obviously, the whole thing is based on the Victor Hugo novel from the 1800s. I don't think we quite understood what we were watching as kids. Like, I grew up when I was 13 when this movie came out, somewhere around that. I don't think I really understood what I was watching when I saw this movie. I loved it. I loved the music. Alan Menken, again, it's Alan Menken, it's just great music. But when you watch this movie as an adult, you're like, whoa. This movie, it does something different than all the other Disney movies. And as a result, because it is a very complex film, I don't think it gets the attention that it deserves. There's not a big presence. My sister goes to Walt Disney World 2 to 3 times a year. And I've asked, what have they done for Hunchback of Notre Dame? Not a lot. Again, this is the 30th anniversary of this movie. This needs to be in this game. These characters need to be enchanted. Quasimodo needs to be an iconic. The song that Frollo sings, we all know what I'm talking about, needs to be a song card. I think it's going to be very difficult for them to print that song card. Just everything about this movie. Everything about this movie. If you have not seen The Hunchback of Notre Dame, you should turn off this YouTube video, stay up late, whatever time it is. If you're watching this, early morning hours, go watch The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This movie is life-changing. It really is. My second favorite Disney movie of all time, which I think is completely on its own plane, is Fantasia. You can't really compare Fantasia to anything. Hunchback of Notre Dame, most important animated Disney film. The things that are the most real are the things that scare us the most. And there's such an honesty to this movie that it's incredible. And if you haven't seen the stage show version yet, which they do change the end to basically match what happens in the book, I'm not going to say what it is. And the full orchestration and song that Esmeralda sings of Someday, which was the credits, and now it's fully orchestrated. Menken went back, worked on it, and the way they have Latin being sung in the background of the reprise of Someday, if you know what I'm talking about, it sounds like it's a song that was written 300 years ago. You'd never be able to tell that it is a classic. If you like Hunchback of Notre Dame and you haven't seen the stage show, listen to that track Someday, because it's the same thing from the credits of the original film, but it's the real version, the version that should have been in the film. I wish they'd do a 30th anniversary release and put that music back in the movie and have that scene in there, or at least do something with it. It's such a gorgeous song. Hunchback of Notre Dame needs to be in this game, and it should be in this game this year for its 30th anniversary. So I hope it's in Hyperia City in the city setting. If not, I hope it's an Onward. But then they missed the 30th anniversary. And by the way, I think the release date was June 21st of 1996 when it came out. It is right now, as I'm recording this, still June 22nd. So I think it's very appropriate that almost to the day that I am recording this video and talking about this. I mean, what a movie. What a movie. Tarzan's another one. This followed Hunchback of Notre Dame in the Disney animated features. The story is that there's issues with the rights with regards to the author. Victor Hugo, 19th century French author, long gone, not an issue for Hunchback. Very much an issue for Tarzan. From what I've heard, I don't think Ravensburger wants to deal with that right now, if that's going on, so I don't see it anytime soon, but at some point, hopefully we see Tarzan in the game. WALL-E, for Pixar, I think is going to be in that future space set with Treasure Planet, Lilo and Stitch, all this kind of stuff. Also, you could put Titan AE in there since now Disney owns Fox Animation, just like the same way you can put Anastasia in Lorcana because Disney owns Fox Animation. So that's another one. Not on my list today, but it's something I've certainly been thinking about. Oliver and Company seems like the other big one to complete like this theme of having those movies from the 80s in the game. Set in New York City makes sense to be in Hyperia City. So I think it'd be a good placement to have Oliver and Company in there. But the biggest priority should be Hunchback of Notre Dame for the 30th anniversary. And then the obvious marketing play is to have Hexed involved with these sets that are coming out in the very near future. All right. And then I just want to go through Attack of the Vine recap because people are like, okay, so what are the main predictions for Attack of the Vine? And if you've skipped ahead to this point in the video just to get to this part of the list, well, shame on you. But here's like here's my main predictions. So as we hear the Lorecast and as we get the information about the reveals over the coming weeks, I think these are the franchises. They're going to be in Attack of the Vine. These are my main predictions. Let's go through the list. Beauty and the Beast, Brave, Encanto, Emperor's New Groove, Fox and the Hound, Frozen, Hercules, Incredibles, The Lion King, Lilo and Stitch, The Little Mermaid, Mickey and Friends, of course, Moana, Monsters, Inc., Mulan, Peter Pan, Pocahontas, Sleeping Beauty, Tangled, Toy Story, Treasure Planet, Turning Red, Up, and Winnie the Pooh. All right. Well, looking forward to the Lorecast. Don't know how many people are going to see this before the Lorecast, but at least this is going to get released before the Lorecast. So if I'm right, data never lies. Have a good night. And remember, teamwork makes the cheese work.